Yeah.
So we both just talked about having the exact same sentence underlined.
Which I think, speaks to others as well. It was on page 58 at the bottom, right? And it said, wordlessness is presence in the magical realm, and oneness is connection and communication through it. And so, I don't know, I liked that distinction because sometimes I feel like, for me, the wordlessness versus oneness can kind of get fuzzy, but just kind of being clear, like, okay, you can be in the realm, and the way you communicate is the oneness aspect of it all.
Yeah, and then on page 59 in the first paragraph of the second half, she says, these states of being, and she puts an emphasis on being, give us access to incredibly powerful ways of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes up a lot for me in conversations with people. Because it's not what you're doing, it's the state of being you're in as you're doing it. And my favorite example is like literally doing the dishes, the same sort of analogy and example that Byron Katie uses. You do your dishes either being mad that it's a chore and bringing all this negative energy around it, or you are immersed in the moment with the suds and it's this almost sacred experience because you're just like really in it. And some researchers call it a state of flow.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too that right there is like where you get the richness of life from,
Yes, because life is in the experience.
Mm-hmm. Rather than the doing. And there's a quote by Maya Angelou that I just loved. Once again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting exactly. But the idea is that, people won't remember what you've said to them or what you've done, but they'll remember how you've made them feel.
Yeah.
And so I think, especially like using this oneness in connection to relationships and other people, that's kind of it as a whole also. If you are in oneness with someone, that connection will feel so much stronger, so much greater than just doing something to do it.
Well, and this idea in oneness that there is a separation, there's no duality sort of between you and I. And what happens, I think, when folks talk about relationships and what they want in the other person, I think I do it still, and I know better. I forget that as a human being, the technology, the magic of my body, has these mirror neurons that are literally going to elicit the state that I'm in. So if I'm anxious, I'm going to elicit anxiety from the other person. And it's funny because in my mind I'm going, I wish you weren't so anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sort of this drawing of who we are towards us and reflecting back to us. So if we don't have an awareness of the state of being that we're in, then these things come as a surprise.
Say that idea about surprise.
Well, we look at the outside world as a surprise. Like, I wonder why this is happening. When, as we increase our awareness, it's not so much of a surprise.
Right. Okay, now I got that. Yeah, just that idea. Also, I think with this kind of oneness and awareness, there's also that growing sense of responsibility because of that. You're taking responsibility for what you attract to yourself or what you're putting out.
That's so magical because that idea of responsibility is also a skill that we build as we increase our awareness of oneness. Is that we are able to respond in exactly the way that we want to, rather than reacting. Mm-hmm. So our responsibility It's an ability to respond that we develop. And it's our job to do that. It's no one else's job.
Mm-hmm.
Like to own our own experience, kind of.
I just smile because I know this isn't where you were taking it, but I'm owning my experience with this dang spoon.
I knew the spoon was gonna come
Can't
out.
avoid it.
You and the spoon. Tell everyone about your relationship with the spoon.
I don't know. It's been a whole, I don't know, crazy love affair, I guess.
Tell us
Well,
more.
I just loved, when I first read this, I've heard about Uri Geller when I was in high school, this whole like idea about it, and I thought it was so like out there. And so then once I was reading about it again in this book, I was like, are you kidding me? This is still here. This is still like a
He's
thing.
haunting me.
Yeah. And so especially with Martha kind of, experimenting with it and kind of obviously she thought it was important enough to explain oneness in her book, I thought, okay, I don't know. I gave it a little bit more credit, and we had a conversation about it, and you kind of helped me understand. Like, I was thinking about this, like, for some reason when I was reading it, I just skipped across the words that she had it in her hands, and I just, like, thought she was staring at this dang spoon and, like, melting it with her mind. And so, well, with your help, I understood that it wasn't necessarily that, but tonight I decided, okay, I'll look at the spoon softly with a soft like glazed look and give it a try. And I don't know, it's hard because it's like I believe it.
Yeah.
Like I believe it can happen, and I don't discredit it that some people can do it, but I can't get myself to believe I can do it. There's some disconnection.
Well, honestly, Sarah, I think that's the key. I think that the key is that you don't believe that you can do it.
But here's the problem then, because my idea is like, unfortunately with this, seeing is believing. Like, how the hell am I going to get myself to believe this if I can't do it?
Well, and that leads right into this paragraph on the top of page 64. And I'm going to read it word for word just because it's beautiful. All the oneness exercises in this chapter and the few that follow are to help you feel how safe you are, how levitated by the all. There's no program for learning them, minutes per day, units per month. There's only the suffering of your lonely human soul, which will goad you into practicing oneness until you stop feeling lonely forever.
That was so perfect.
And so the soft, open focus with the spoon is for me this connection. Like I'm going to hold a pencil in my hand. Like this connection to this tool. I love pencils. Like magic comes out of this lead when it hits the paper.
Yeah, and I did, when I did the soft focus, and I kind of brought myself to wordlessness beforehand and felt that process and stuff. And so I could feel like I wasn't weirded out by like feeling affection for the spoon. Like I could do that. Mm-hmm. It brought me back to my younger years when I thought, little dollies were real and had feelings,
Aww,
so
they do.
That kind of thing. Like I can go there. It's just from that point beyond, that's the tricky area.
Well, I'm going to make a confession to you and to all of our listeners, is that I have not been to Spoon. But I've shared with you my experience with oneness. And I feel like I've gone into oneness without realizing I was in it until I was leaving it. And so my experience with oneness was a real shove because it was from, being physically hit by a car. Mm-hmm. But you and I both agreed that we want to focus on the delight, the path of delight and, sort of bringing ourselves into this state without tragedy or terror or, pain. Because oneness is with us. We just have to allow it to come through us. And so that idea that it's sort of the chicken and the egg, right? How am I going to get the spoon to bend if I don't believe that I can bend it, but I believe that I can bend it? It's kind of tricky, huh?
It is. It really is. And I suppose, that is a good reminder also to not let myself get frustrated with the process. It's meant to be playful. It's meant to be fun.
Play is the most serious learning there is. I think Einstein said that, but I'm saying it too. Because it's how we naturally learn. And our socialized self is immediately going into passing the test, studying long enough, reading. I mean, I got to be honest, before we got on the call, I'm like reviewing the chapters like again, right? Because I need more knowledge. And that's not true. But I guess it's hard to get our minds away from that.
Right. Well, what were some of the other interesting points that you liked in chapter 5?
Let me flip.
Or I suppose we're on chapter 4 technically right now. 4 or 5, that's what we're
Well, the end of chapter 4. I think the end of chapter 4, last paragraph. I mean, the headline title is Oneness is Worth the Work. So the intensity, the persistence, and the delicacy that it's going to require for us to function in this state, in her words, is hard to overstate. So it's not an ambition for the easily discouraged. But then neither is spending your life as a mender, a healer of self, of other beings, and of complex systems. Because I think what you and I understand as members of the tribe is that you who is listening to us is also sort of by this conversation being inducted into the tribe. And what we're doing is just very honestly sharing with you our initial experiences with this really crazy, amazing magic that we see. And these experiences that we're having that are really, Sarah and I like to use the word creepy, but not creepy in a, ew, that's creepy, but in a, ooh, that's so creepy. So it's kind of like an induction. It's a deep practice that you're just going to develop over time. The cool thing about this and Martha's work is that it's not the knowledge of knowing. It's the understanding and doing.
Right, the understanding, doing, and just the awareness, Yeah. I think, to take it back, also, a page or two when Martha was, in her book, when she's talking about the random number generators, when we're talking about, big, global events taking place, how these numbers aren't so random, when you can see situations on such a large level like that, you can't deny something is happening.
Or situations at a very personal level. Have you ever played the game Bunko?
I have not. I don't even think I've heard of it. What is it?
Heard of Bunko? It is I hate to make a generalization, but it's sort of like a housewife card game, but with dice. And you have groups of 12, usually women or couples, and you play Bunko, and it's like a game. It's like a social circle.
Okay.
And you take turns playing Bunko at other people's houses, and 99 times out of the 10, all the Bunko players cooked way better than I did, which is why I loved Bunko so much. I'd go for the food. But it's a dice game, and so you're rolling dice. And more often than not, I'd say 80% of the time, I was at what's called the head table, because I would roll Bunko or I would roll enough to win, if that makes sense. And logically, I shouldn't have done that because it's outside of this randomness of dice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think because I would, it was funny the way that I would do it, but I had this way that I would cradle the dice and ask them and tell them what I needed from them, and they would give it to me. And at the time, I was being really silly and funny about it, but now that I look back on it, it's kind of weird that I was always at the head table.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Because they're dice and they're supposed to be random, and it's 12 different women every single time almost. So it's very personal. Like, it happens to us everywhere. We just don't notice it a lot of times. That's why you said, like, it's about increasing your awareness.
Right. Or you just write it off as something silly.
And I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm being silly. Look at me. But it's creepy weird.
Mm-hmm. Creepy cool.
You're right. Creepy cool. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is very true. That's a good example, too, to apply.
And my regards to all the bunco players. I miss it. For the food, of course.
Well, I think that, like, kind of this awareness or these little things that are happening on a personal level, as well as, like, the larger scale, is also, I don't know if it's just a thing in Minnesota right now, but are essential oils a big deal in Texas right now?
They're coming up, and I'll tell you that I'm like an essential oil kind of person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was reading chapter 5 and talking about the Green Nation and the plants, I was like, I have 4 little bottles of essential oil sitting next to me also, and I'm like, this is funny, as it seems like it's a trend, but it seems like it's, as with any trend, it's happening at a specific moment in time. And I wonder if this has anything to do with our acceptance of this idea of, like, the Green Nation and alternative medicine, if you will.
Well, it's almost like yoga. Like, some things are becoming more mainstream, but I'm going to be honest and say that my grandmother would give us yerba buena. It's an herb to help us feel better when we didn't feel good.
Right, and that was a home remedy, and I think that's always been around, of course, but, like, what I'm saying is that I just find it odd. Like, Martha always talks about, the team and the menders and how there's this kind of wave of something happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I know it's minute, but I feel like that's part of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the essential oil trend, quote in air quotes, is part of us listening to our essential selves. And the idea that we can decide, like, even the kit, like the kit that I bought is called the home medicine something, It's like me figuring out what the best medicine is for my family based on what their symptoms are. So that again, going back to an awareness and what is responding to me in my body.
Mm-hmm. And earlier on, if you think about, like, your grandparents and people before, there weren't all these different distractions of modern technology and things that could, help fill that void, allowing you to be distracted. And I don't know, there's a sentence that I really liked. It kind of, like, snapped me out of it and realized, like, this isn't anything new.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not anything new. It's more of the remembering, becoming a member again. And it says, we are what we eat. It's impossible not to be one with the plant kingdom. It's only possible to forget that we are one.
Mm.
And I think right now it's so easy to forget, but we're starting to remember.
Yeah. Well, and you said something about the noise, and I call it a seduction. because it seduces us away from what's true for us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the paradox of choice that researchers talk about. Because we have so many choices now, it's like we're frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the past, because there were more constraints, we felt safer. And now, because literally the world is open to us, and every possibility and every opportunity, it freezes us. Like, what action do I take? I could do anything. Oh my gosh.
Right, and it's that responsibility, right? We're choosing not to respond almost because we're fearing we're making the wrong decision.
Yeah, so instead of fight or flight, we're freezing. And we're not even recognizing that it's a stress response. We think it's,
Right.
So understanding our bodies, understanding our own language. It's a decoding. It actually is a decoding.
I think that's a perfect segue into the body dowsing. Understanding our language and our body.
Yes. And you haven't been body doused before.
I have not. I have to be honest. I'm kind of skeptical. It's like this is a little too woo-woo,
And it's so not. But I get that. And only because I've experienced it so strongly, like I'm excited for you. And I know that you'll be honest about exactly what you experience. So no pressure to sort of put on a show for our people.
Right. Well, and I think it's good for all of the listeners to do it step by step with us. Because I'm assuming some people haven't tried it yet either.
Yeah, so if you're with us, we're about to do body dowsing, which is page 75. And like you, Sarah, if you'll just get comfortable, if you can be in your bare feet, I think that's the best thing to do. If you have a choice, stand up. Okay. And if you have a choice between a carpeted area or maybe tile or wood or what's most amazing is kind of like the bare floor, the outside, level ground is what I would suggest.
Vivian, I'm going to turn on the video also so you can kind of observe.
Ooh, cool.
Okay, so I think I'm standing and I'm comfortable.
Okay, so you're going to lower your shoulders directly over your heels. You're going to sort of rest your jaw on your shoulder, so just kind of releasing the tension in your jaw. If you feel safe and it's cool for you, close your eyes. If not, just sort of have this soft gaze in front of you, not paying attention to any one thing, but sort of bringing in the periphery of everything around you. Your shoulders are back, And what you want to do is repeat the word pain several times. So just in your mind, and out loud, say the word over and over, noticing if your body sways. So Sarah, did you notice your body swaying at all?
To be honest, I felt like it started to sway, but I tried to keep my balance. Yeah. So I didn't feel it.
Where did it start to sway?
I almost noticed it swaying a little bit forward, and so then I like overcorrected backwards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you swayed forward and then you overcorrected by coming back.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it felt like, to be honest.
So then you run away from pain. So we're going to go back to your neutral position. So sort of shake it off. Just kind of do the wiggly. Move your head around. I like to move my jaw around for some reason. That releases stress. Yeah. Sarah's moving her arms. I can see her.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back into your neutral posture. Shoulders over your heels. Just feet flat on the floor. A couple deep belly breaths. And then you're going to repeat the word calm. And we could barely hear you on the first one, so maybe this one, if you're saying it a little louder, and then I think the experience becomes more intimate when you close your eyes. So try that.
So start repeating calm.
Yes. Notice if your body sways as you repeat the word calm.
Calm. Calm. Calm. Calm. Calm. Calm. I'm going so backwards right now. It feels weird.
Ooh. Okay, so you figured out your positions, right? So calm for you is back.
That's weird.
It's not weird. It's just not...
Just out of curiosity, did you physically see me sway at all?
The light was kind of tough, so just now is when I could barely see you.
Oh,
But you know what? I'll be able to watch you when you do your food.
Okay.
So I think it's because the light is so bright right behind you. Yeah. So we're going to start with... So now you know what your reactions are, both positive and negative, right? So now you're going to pick up... You have almonds and you have manzana.
An apple, yeah.
Oh, it's such a beautiful apple. So you're holding it. Go into your as neutral a position you can as you're holding it. And just draw your attention to the apple and notice if your body sways. Ooh, I see you moving.
Which way am I moving?
Did you notice which way you were moving?
Yes, I did, but I want you to tell me which way it was.
I noticed you moving back.
Yes!
So this apple's good for you.
That's creepy cool. I have goosebumps right now. Honestly, I was skeptical.
It's happening. Oh, you have goosebumps. I saw it happen. Okay.
That's really interesting to notice because when I told you we were doing just the calibrating, it felt like I think I was expecting something much more powerful, and it's a subtle feeling. It's not like, whoa, I'm really going.
Well, you just said something really, really important. And the importance of that I hear is there is so much power in the subtle. We do expect Big Bang, evaporating volcanoes kind of experiences, right?
To know for sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. They're sort of like these silent whispers that you almost push away like a fly. Does that make sense?
Right, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure that if you didn't visually, like if you weren't witnessing this would be something I'm brushing off. Because, yeah, I felt it, but it wasn't obvious enough.
Right, like you want more evidence.
Yes.
Yes, you intellect you.
Do
we want to try with your almonds?
Let's just do it for fun, because this is fun now.
Okay, so shake it off. Just kind of like neutralize yourself.
Okay. Oops. Okay.
Okay. And then pick up your almonds.
Okay.
And you're holding them and you're just drawing your attention to the almonds with your feet flat on the floor. Shoulders back. I see it happening.
Okay, because I can feel it happening, but I don't know.
So tell us what happened.
I felt it's if I could describe it, it feels like I'm losing balance, but I'm really not. It's like I feel like I have something connected to my heels
Uh-huh.
that are like just it's a pull.
Yeah.
I'm getting pulled backwards.
I think that I use the analogy of like chasing a butterfly, like knowing you're not going to catch it, but just that really gentle reach and movement towards.
Yes.
Yeah. Like sort of yearning, sort of a pulling. That's cool.
That was fun. Thank you, Vivian.
You're so welcome.
I'm gonna sit back down. I'm curious to know what happened with the listeners.
I am too. I so am too. Like you guys and gals, you team members, healers, wayfinders, tell us. Because that was Sarah's first dowsing.
And that doesn't go to show that it's always going to happen necessarily.
Well, and I think you're a perfect example because you went in the opposite direction of what normally happens for people. Normally, you are pulled towards calm and away from pain. And yours is opposite. And I think it's important to mention that we can't sort of fall into this is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we really need to pay attention to what's right for us.
Right, and it, like I said, just that I'm really surprised by like the subtleness in it. It's not something I haven't felt before. That's what's kind of surprising also.
Ooh, can you think of an example of when you felt it before?
The only analogy that comes to my mind, I mean, and this isn't a specific example, but I associate that feeling with, like I was being pulled backwards a little bit, and I don't think I'm making it up now because the idea just came to me, and it's the sense of like free falling into a hammock or like relaxation, like, I can rest. It's a feel-good feeling for me.
Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Like you already associate positiveness with sort of leaning back.
Right. When, that might be contrary to what you'd initially think if you're going back. You think you're trying to get away.
Yeah, but not for you. And that's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
So when we practice this or any of Martha's tools, there's that playful, sort of intuitive, kind of have fun with it sort of thing.
Yeah, and my kind of the little light bulb moment for me right now, the takeaway that I'm getting from this is, you really don't have to doubt yourself as much as you are.
That's a big one. And we have to remember that, right?
Mm-hmm. I needed you to prove, like, yes, you're also saying something,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that's not always necessary. We can
already
recognize
know
what's good, right?
Yeah, we already know what's good for us. We don't need anyone on the outside telling us. And that's honestly what I love about coaching in the Martha Beck way, is that we are opening up ourselves, all of the experience and everything we've ever been through, but it's really just in that moment, what is being pulled out of me from this person. And you and I have experienced that with each other. Like you just said, I'm having this recollection and it's just what came up. And it was the perfect thing to say.
Right, and so it's kind of fun to recognize that certain people can help create that sense or that realm of wordlessness, and then you can also communicate with each other through it, which is that oneness.
Yeah. So have you had communications like that before?
With other individuals or with my...
Like you're thinking of someone and then they call you?
Right, exactly. Scenarios like that, or, a lot of times you're speaking to someone and it's like you say the same thing at the same time.
Pinch a poke, you owe me a Coke.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say when that happens. You know what's really weird? So my husband and I have been married a long time, and it's creepy weird. But sometimes we don't have to talk to each other, and we know what the other one is saying, or the other one is going to say, in a
So you're
really
telling
weird
me you
way.
can, telepathy is your thing.
I think I can intuit, if that's a word. I can intuit what he's going to say.
Okay.
And there are times, this is the part that bugs me, just to be honest, is there are times when he's in bed and he's pretending to be asleep, but his mind noise is so loud that it wakes me up.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And so I nudge him and I'm like, you're not asleep and you're talking really loud. And he's not speaking, but everything's running through his
That
mind.
energy. Yeah, that wave, those waves.
Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of the times, more times than I care to admit, I know what he's going to say. Or I know what he's going to, I sort of know the next thing. Or if I'm walking by, then I can look at him and just nod my head and okay.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird?
It's amazing.
Kind of weird.
What do you think about this idea with the plant nation, though?
Let me see. Tell me specifically, because I have to be honest, I really didn't connect with chapter 5, but I will say that I have personally gone through a transformation because we changed the way we eat, and it changed my life.
Right. I guess I was thinking, when I first read this chapter talking about, her little, what is it, the green aunties, the little trees who are singing to her.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's something I yearn for. I just think that's awesome. Just that, true connectedness with nature. There were certain parts I was a little bit more of okay, is this her interpretation of it, or is this really how it was? With the whole hearing and stuff. And I assume that's similar to what you're explaining with your husband and hearing his thoughts, that energy, that vibration.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just sounded amazing. Were you going to say something?
Well, she says in this chapter, in chapter 5, that there's two types of oneness: the physical connection between our body and the food, which we did in the body dowsing, and the food or medicine created by plants, and the spiritual connection with the green nation that our culture barely acknowledges. So you're talking about that second one, where it's central to wisdom traditions, and I think there is where the essential oils and my grandmother's yerba buena, and the different herbs that help us in much better ways than medicine does a lot of times. And my medicine, like I said, we changed the way that we over the last 6 months, we've changed the way that we eat. And it's changed my sleep, it's changed my skin tone, it's changed my vitality, how much energy I have, how nice I am.
Yeah, of course.
And, but I recently, because Josh is home from college, well, he graduated college, so he's home till he goes, somewhere else. And we've been eating off. And I'll tell David, let me tell you how I feel right now so that you can remind me the next time I try to pick up, this peach cobbler or whatever it was that made me feel gross. Or I'll eat something because it's okay, we're here in this space and everyone else is doing it. I should do it too. And then my stomach hurts all get out. Because I'm not listening to my body.
And it's funny you bring this up because I honestly hadn't intentionally planned on talking about this because it's probably been the last month that I've really focused on the way I've been eating, and I wouldn't consider myself one of those, I don't want to stereotype, but a health nut. Like, I'm not into, like, if the food is good, I'm eating it kind of a thing. And I've been paying attention to, and it wasn't an intention to eat clean either, but I've just been eating less processed food and less sugar.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I have one free day that I allow myself to just, like, gorge on anything that I really want to. And, you know, at first I did that and I just felt crappy because of that practice. And so I weaned myself even off of that, where I was just eating well, eating, you know, healthy, not as processed foods. And the days that I would kind of, you know, fudge up and have something, have a dessert, we had rhubarb crisp. Oh, you can't not have rhubarb crisp in Minnesota in the spring and summer.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't?
Uh-uh.
Rhubarb?
No.
Oh my goodness. I need to make you some. Or my mom does. Hers is better. But, yeah, I remember, like, so I'd have that, and then the next day I'd wake up, and have you ever heard of, like, I don't know, in the Spanish translation would be like a dry hangover?
Yes.
Like, didn't drink, but you feel like you have a hangover.
I have sugar hangovers now.
Yes, I said that. I was like, I feel like I'm hungover, and the reason why is because of the sugar, what I ate.
Yeah, I'll feel cloudy and sluggish and blah and bloated. Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't like it because it's like, crap, no, I can't turn back. You know, like, I want to eat dessert. I'm a dessert fanatic. But I'm getting to the point where because of the way it feels, it's not as appealing to me.
Exactly. But I guess I haven't gotten past the social pressure of it. Or else I'd be able to say no. Or something's happening. I don't know what's happening. Because before it wouldn't even faze me. But I guess I want to be included. I want to be the person who's not having it.
Well, I think there's a stereotype with that also. You're like, oh, you're that girl?
But that's exactly what we did. We, like, don't have grain. We don't have dairy almost at all. We don't have sugar. You know, we don't have... we haven't drank for years, but we don't drink alcohol. So, it's a huge dry hangover when we have, like, a dessert fest. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. Ugh. But I think that's part of the healing, to be honest. I think it's part of the healing journey, and I feel like that's why it's in one of the beginning chapters, because we sort of unfold, or we evolve like a flower does to our natural state if we allow it. And so our natural states, you know, for whatever reason, whatever outside reasoning there was, is telling us, let's eat healthier, let's eat different, or let's eat in a way that nurtures us. Because there's really, outside of our thoughts, outside of our what we're thinking and our attitude, the food that we take in and the amount of sleep we have are like the trifecta of our lives. I mean, I can't think of anything that's more important. You know, the amount of exercise we have, but that's natural movement. Are we taking walks? Are we taking the stairs? Are we sort of moving our bodies naturally?
Say the trifecta again, because I like that.
I think it's the amount of sleep we have, the food we take in, you know, food and water, and what was the third one?
And see, I apologize because I was kind of on my own thing for a second, mulling things around in my mind.
I think it's our thoughts. It's the projection, the movie that we play in our mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm saying that as we're healing ourselves, like our job, our vocation as natural healers, teachers, wayfinders, you know, the shaman of the century, you know, we do that by healing ourselves first. And so we're naturally healing ourselves. Like, no one put a gun to my head and said, you will eat good.
Right.
No one did that for you either, but you kind of just started going in that direction.
And to be honest, like what I said right now, I'm kind of mulling this idea around in my head because it's like, I think there's a misconception of what, well, there obviously is a misconception of what will heal us, but I wonder if I take a big old brownie and ice cream in my hand, what I'll feel right now. Like if I will be pulled, because I have a new love and admiration for warm brownies with ice cream on top. I've never had that before. And I think that's something that, I mean, I don't know.
Is there a brownie in your house?
No, there's not. No.
That would be a good experiment for you to do, because what I'm gonna share is something that I taught in a class yesterday to new to up and coming yoga teachers. They were so cute, and one of them asked a question, and because I was talking about long term versus short term, and I think that that's a perfect example of a pattern that maybe it wasn't a brownie, maybe it was something else, but we in our minds intellectualize that this gooey, sugary concoction is going to feed us, that it's going to fill us, right? And so you've associated this idea that it's nurturing you. But in reality, I would venture money. I'd put $1 on the table to say that if you doused yourself while you're holding the brownie and the ice cream, that your body is going to tell you no. But we push that away. We sort of shoosh it off like a fly. So if I were to have a hunch, we're on the spot coaching people. Is that okay with you, Sarah?
Say that again?
I said I was going to have is it okay for me to share my hunch?
Yeah, do that.
I didn't want to do it without permission. But my hunch is that brownie is fulfilling a new sort of void that's come up. And that's this connection to this affinity. Like it represents something else for you. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I think that definitely could be part of it, but I'm also playing with this idea of what's good for me, my soul, and what's good for me, my body. And I notice, like...
I think they're the same thing.
I know, and I notice I'm dissociating, like I'm trying to divide them.
Oh,
because I want the damn brownie.
I get it now.
That's funny.
I get it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think we do that.
And that's just a story I'm, really wanting to hold on to. I don't know.
Yeah, because could you imagine not having rhubarb in your life? No. Is it called rhubarb?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No.
Sorry.
Is it something, is the word said better in it?
No, it's not any different. The example I gave was poor because I've lived without it for quite a while. So I couldn't really, give a hearty yes to that. Because, to be honest, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I could live without rhubarb.
Yeah,
but the brownie? I'm not so sure.
But what's that?
But the brownie?
Yeah. That dang brownie's too easy to get anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, do we have any closing thoughts? We are chatty Cathys.
Oh, goodness, we are. It's just so fun with you, Vivian, and all you guys.
It really is.
No, I guess what I really want to go away with is that idea of that. I know you said it. When I heard it, I liked it, and I can't repeat it. The trifecta of just kind of like, that idea of threes has been coming up for me a lot. Like the whole mind, body, soul, and right now, trying to divide. And if you do it for one, you're doing it for all. And I think that's the idea of oneness also,
Oh my gosh, Sarah. That concept, that phrase, if you're doing it for one, you're doing it for all, is so important. And I want to have a personal conversation with you as a listener right now. Okay. When there's a time when you feel drawn towards your best choice, your dowsing. And logically, in your mind, you might feel like you're going to hurt somebody, or you're going to disappoint someone, or you're not going to meet someone's expectations because you're meeting your essential self's best thing. And what I want to say is that in my experience, I really had a hard time with that. Large family, totally devoted to my husband and my family, Catholic. There's all sorts of issues around doing what's right for you and thinking that it might be wrong for somebody else. But honestly, what is right for you will be righter, will make everything righter for everyone around you. Allowing yourself to love and heal yourself will just by association heal and free the people you love and the people that are around you. So it's going to be scary. And I'm so glad that you ended it with that, because that is so freaking real right there. That's so true. What you do for one, you do for all. We heal the world by healing ourselves. That's our first step.
Mm-hmm.